don't need a high-end designer or a lot of money to get a luxe look. Be your own interior designer.
This is Affordable Interior Design, the podcast.
Here's your host, Betsy Helmuth.
Hello. Did I mention we have big things, huge things in the works for our 10 years on the air? Yes, this year is our anniversary. In March, we marked 10 years on the air, serving you weekly episodes, so much interior design knowledge, so many pictures, so many great stories from you guys, sending in your design dilemmas. I love answering them. Still, I'm as excited to dig into the mailbag today as I was 10 years ago. So thank you guys for being a part of this journey. I really appreciate you guys spreading the word about the podcast, sharing it with your friends. And if you really want to give us an amazing birthday present, you'll head over to Apple and give us a 5-star review. Those reviews help so much. And when Apple sees an influx of great reviews, then they promote the show and pump it up and put it out there. And boy, we would love to grow even bigger in this, our 10th year. So spread the word, send us a shout out, give us that 5-star review, and I'm going to start highlighting those reviews on the air. I'm going to start bringing that up and giving you guys some thanks personally for writing those reviews. So yeah, lots coming. Lots happening, and lots happening in the mailbag. Not only am I personally watching a lot of cool stuff that I can't wait to talk about, but oftentimes I'm watching these shows while I'm doing design work. In fact, I have a huge project tonight. $6 million apartment on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. I'm doing all the rooms, all the wallpaper, all the paint, all the light fixtures. And tonight I'm working on the primary bedroom as well as the office, the gentleman's office, which he wants to be like this dark den. And yet it happens to have the best, largest windows in the entire apartment. So this is going to be a really fun challenge because it gets a ton of natural light, but he wants it to feel moody and dark and cave-like. Nothing I can't handle. I just did their daughter's nursery yesterday, and it's adorable, if I do say so myself. They had an elaborate Pinterest board with lots of pins, and I could have just selected from what they gave me. But I took all that inspiration and made my own vision, and fingers crossed, guys, fingers crossed, because when you have a budget like that, when you're working on a $6 million home, money's not the obstacle. So really anything is possible, but what makes sense? What is cool? But I always find these projects to be so much more challenging because if they don't like the wallpaper I selected, there are literally 20,000 other wallpapers that they could afford that they might like. So it just makes my job much harder than people who have very limited budgets where like we have to spend $30 a roll on wallpaper. This is what we're looking at, or maybe we don't. And I have a reason why, even if subjectively they don't like the pattern, this is what we can afford, right? Here with these clients, the world is their oyster, and I have to make sure I'm delivering them seafood that's delectable and amazing. Did I take that metaphor too far? I do love a metaphor, but I tend to go overboard. Bringing it back to that fish overboard. Get it? Okay. Anyway, where am I? I'm reaching into the mailbag because not only am I going to answer an amazing question today, I'm also going to let you know what I watched last night. Last night, I was catching up on my Sex and the City reboot, season 3 of And Just Like That. I'll talk more about that, my thoughts, my feelings, because the internet is a buzz, and I've been listening to all of Sarah Jessica Parker's press junket. I listened to Kristen Davis's Are You a Charlotte podcast. Highly recommend, by the way, highly recommend. And so lots coming at you with this action-packed episode. But before we dig into what I'm watching on TV, let's dig into one of your design dilemmas. Here we go. Here we go. This question comes from premium member Laura. Laura literally sent her question in 5 hours ago, and I am answering it on the air right now. And do you know why? She's a premium member. Yes, I have other questions in the mailbag, but they came from non-premium members. This is the advantage of becoming a premium member of our show. Not only will you get tons of good karma coming your way because you're contributing to the show, keeping us on the air week after week, supporting the production of this show, but also you get your questions answered first, and you get access to a bonus archive of over 70 episodes exclusive to our premium members. You'll get that little treasure trove of EPs that you can dig into. So guys, if you're tempted to join Laura and become a premium member, it's super easy. You go to affordableinteriordesign.com/podcast, affordableinteriordesign.com/podcast. Then you just click a button, and for as little as $5.99 a month, you can support the podcast, get your questions answered first, and have a whole host of episodes at your fingertips. All right, Laura, let's get into it. Here we go. Betsy, thank you so much for your suggestions. Pushing the sofa back made an immediate difference when you responded to my last question. And now I am so ready to replace the old recliner and IKEA chair, but I'm having color scheme dilemmas. The two art pieces we have include a lot of green and blue. The green art piece above the couch is staying in the room, but moving to the other side of the fireplace. I got green curtains and I love them. I thought a blue armchair would work, but the blue felt really random. It stuck out. Is this because I haven't committed to the blue, or I got the wrong shade? Or do you think that the blue just won't work in this room? I definitely want to add some color and some contrast, and I thought the new armchairs would be a great place to do that. We also love all your other thoughts on storage, etc. I feel like we're a lot closer to the room we really want. Thank you, Laura. Well, Laura, I think you're pretty close too. You're writing all the way from Chesapeake, and I can't wait to dig in. Speaking of, I'm going to be on the Chesapeake Bay very soon. We're actually going to the other side. We're going to Ocean City this year, but last year we were on the Chesapeake Bay and it was delightful. If Ocean City does not represent like I hope it will this year, we're going back to Chesapeake the following year because we had a blast. My son was very upset that I even thought about mixing it up, but I like to try new things. I like to explore. All right, Laura, back to your question. Now, for those of you who are listening while you're running errands, listening while you're running around a track, well, I'll describe the room to you. But if you want to see it visually for yourself, head over to YouTube. All these pictures will be on there and you can scroll through them and see for yourself. All right. So you'll remember we worked on Laura's room a couple of weeks ago, and she has a big white fireplace. It's actually painted brick with a tall mantle and a tall raised hearth. So that only leaves about 3 feet between the top of the mantle and the crown molding. Then as we move clockwise around this room, we've got some arbitrary end tables next to the fireplace. Not my favorite choice for you, Laura. I'm not sure why these end tables aren't flanking the sofa. That's a question for another day. Yeah, that's not a good move. But ideally, I would flank the sofa with the 2 end tables. But we're continuing to move around without too much commentary. Then we've got a gray chaise sofa, which fits that wall really nicely. It's the longest unbroken wall in the room, so I think the chaise sofa is perfect there. As we move around, we have an end table on the other side of the sofa. Now, this is a white end table, which I like mimicking the white from the fireplace, but I really do prefer the wooden end tables because typically the height of your end table needs to be the same height or a little shorter than your sofa arm, and this appears to be a couple inches taller than your sofa arm. In my opinion, it looks goofy and ill-fitting to have such a tall end table next to this particular sofa, so I would swap this out for sure. And you have something in the room to do that with. Yeah, we're losing the IKEA chair, losing the recliner. Okay, so you've got a round coffee table that's a wood top, kind of a rusticy wood, with then metal legs and a metal sort of black mesh second tier where you've got a basket. But then across from it under the window, you have a coffee table that's wood and metal. So that's bothering me and feels redundant. I mean, it looks like a rectangular coffee table that you're using as some kind of bench under the window opposite the sofa, it's not working for me. I love that you guys have so many board games because there's board games on this random coffee table that we're talking about. There's board games that are filling those two side tables. I think what you really need in place of those side tables is maybe some kind of etagere shelving unit that can hold the games and hold some of the accumulation that I'm seeing. I also think, as we finish our circular tour of the room, there's a wall mounted TV that's in the corner of the room between the random coffee table slash window wall and the fireplace wall. I would put it on a stand or keep it floating but have a corner stand underneath it. Now it looks like it's not really in the corner. It looks like it's more on a wall and you've just articulated the arm out so that it looks like it's on an angle. But for me, it's floating, it's arbitrary, and you've got a chair underneath it, which feels precarious. Like when I stand up, I'm going to hit my head on the TV. It's just not working for me. Now, you actually wrote about the color palette. Guys, I can't stay on topic. I have so many things to share. Let's get into it. You wrote that you've got blue and green. So, first of all, I'm not seeing these blue in chairs. So maybe armchairs, excuse me. So maybe you're just thinking about it. Let me go back. Did I miss something? Okay. Okay. Let's talk about it. What you need, guys, when you're creating a color palette is you need an inspiration piece that you like. It could be a large painting. It could be an area rug. In this room, we have wall-to-wall carpeting, so no area rug is needed or even ideal. So a large piece of art, patterned curtains, something like that, that makes a big multicolored statement. In this room, you do have a green and blue piece of art above the sofa. However, it's not the right size. Remember from the episode I did last week? The piece of art above the sofa needs to be 50 to 75% the width of the sofa itself. Now, this sofa, this chaise sofa, looks long. It looks like over 90 inches. So this piece needs to be over 45 inches wide, and it barely looks 30. I'm concerned that this piece, while I like it and while it's potentially driving the color palette, is wrong for its current location. So I would move it. It would work perfectly above the fireplace, even though I like the rustic wood sign you have above the fireplace announcing your wedding. I like that the rustic wood ties in with the coffee table. I like that it seems to fit there nicely. But this would also fit there nicely because it's a comparable size. Over the sofa, I would get like a large mirror because it'll reflect that beautiful natural light from the outside and almost double your windows in here. So get a very big mirror because we also don't have any glass or representation of that type of element, something clear and reflective. In feng shui, it would be a water element, and the mirror will take care of that. Back to color. If this piece were above the fireplace, this landscape that features the blue and the green, it would be perfect. It would set the tone. We would know exactly what colors to pull because, as you heard, Laura doesn't know which blue. The way to solve this is picking an inspiration piece that you love and picking 3 Roy G. Biv colors from it for your color palette. If you like the piece, those colors are already going well together right next to each other in the piece. So you're sure to love the colors when you pull them out and when you're really true and specific to the tones that were reflected in the inspiration piece. Now, you mentioned, Laura, that you love your green drapes. I also love them. They're like this really deep, yet not too dark sage color. I think they go really well with the creamy, warm walls. And I think that they work well with this inspiration piece if that's what you choose. Then you would pick 2 chairs that are blue, and I think that's a great idea. This room needs a pop of color, and I think the blue armchairs would be just the ticket. The key is to pull an exact blue from what you're seeing in your inspiration piece. And then, because we're going to have blue and green on the window side of the room, you need to add some color on the sofa side of the room. Now, you already have some glass table lamps. You're going to have a mirror above the sofa. So, throw pillows and a throw blanket are going to be your opportunities to bring that blue and green, those exact same shades, not a slightly different tone, not a green that's a little bit more yellow, the exact same shades to bring them over on the other side of the room, but in a different form. Like I mentioned, pillows, throw blankets, decorative coasters that they're also practical, decorative and practical on top of the end table. You know, you do have a very wide fireplace, and I'm loving the wood sign from your wedding. I also love that you've attempted to layer in front of the sign. You've put a small piece of art in front of the sign that appears to be leaning on the wall. If you're going to layer, you need to be more intentional. You need to do something bigger, more splashy. And we know from previous episodes that when you're accessorizing, you want to accessorize in odd numbers. So we have two pictures here, but it would feel more organic and comfortable if you had three pictures in this vignette. So if you're going to kind of layer them on top of each other, I would do at least three to make it more interesting and to better fill the mantle, and ideally to bring some pops of that blue and green over to this wall as well. Because we don't want to have all the color on one side of the room. We want to think about balance and distributing the color in little pops throughout the space. That's a lot of work to do. I've given you your assignments, Laura. Let me know how it goes. You're very diligent about updating us, which I love, and we'll all be waiting with bated breath as you make these changes and circle back. Speaking of waiting with bated breath, even though this show is cheesy, even though I thought it jumped the shark season 1, I am still hooked. I am still watching. And just like that, the Sex and the City spinoff. These people were some of my only friends. I moved to New York City in 2001. This came on the air in what, 98? 98, I was in college. I didn't really have TV, or if I did, this just wasn't on my radar. I certainly was not paying for HBO. I was not watching, nobody was talking about Sex and the City in my circles. I moved to the city. Instantly, people were talking about Sex and the City. I was hanging around like some older people. They had been watching for years. They had it like watch parties where they would make dinner and have events. And I kind of just fell into that and then got excited about the show. Well, those friendships didn't all pan out. They were older than me. Some of them were based on boyfriends, etc. So that fell away when the boyfriends fell away. But my friends on Sex and the City, these characters and these relationships, they taught me about the city. Now, was there toxic messaging? Absolutely. You know, does anybody really live like that in the city? Yes, the 1%. Most of us could never afford to go to those clubs night after night, let alone one time. If we could even get access to those clubs, I don't know anybody in my circles who could afford those clothes or who spent money on clothes like that. It just isn't a lifestyle that I lived, that anybody I knew lived. And certainly I even work with clients, you know, who have huge budgets, $6 million apartments on the Upper West Side. I'm not seeing this lifestyle. So do I think it was particularly realistic in terms of portrayal? Do I think these were good mentors for me? Absolutely not. But they did become my besties. And I lived vicariously through them. I modified some of my values. Like I was like, yes, I need to be dating a lot more. I need to be having a lot more fun. I need to go out a lot more. And I think it helped introduce me to a city that's pretty intimidating because I could kind of watch them go first. Like I said, these are not ideal mentors, but they became my friend group. I felt like I really knew them. And I remember when And Just Like That came back for season 1, the minute I turned it on to watch the first episode, I felt like my best friends were back. I felt like we were all in the same room. I was like having this moment. My husband popped in while I was watching and he saw something on the screen. He was like, oh my God, that was so cheesy. Oh my God, that's so bad. And I was like, I don't care. I'm with my friends again. You know how, like, when you reunite with your high school friends or something, and maybe you've drifted apart and you're totally into different things, but you come together and it's just like old times? I don't care that our lives are different. I don't care that we have nothing in common anymore. I miss my friends. So I've missed my New York City stewards, and I'm so glad to have them back. And I would literally watch them all read the phone book. It's true. Now, do I love the new characters? Not really. I think they're simplistic, Seema, who is single and a real estate agent. And I like the complexity of being very successful and yet struggling in relationships. I've seen that so many times in New York City. And how do you kind of balance the two? And then there's the other character, I don't even remember her name, but she's married and I thought it was almost interesting in season two when they were going to give her a late in life kid because I was like, ooh, let's see how she handles that. I was pregnant at the time and being like, I will not be alone. She'll be with me. Then she lost the baby and there went that. But that would have been an interesting challenge for a storyline for sure because I'm living that challenge right now. Anyway, um, Season three. Season three. One of the things that's been very controversial that I've been hearing online is that people are not liking Aiden. So Aiden lives in Virginia now. He was one of Carrie's boyfriends from years ago that she wound up cheating on with Mr. Big. She ultimately married Mr. Big. Spoiler alert, he dies. She and Aiden get back into contact. He's getting divorced. And he has three boys who are in high school and college. And so they're trying to make it work again. They're trying to rekindle the same spark is there sexually. How can they merge their lives when he's in rural Virginia and she's still in the city? When his boys are going through a lot with the divorce and also mental health struggles, and she's got a ton of money and is in New York City and is alone, right? So people aren't liking Aiden. People are thinking that Aiden's cheesy. People are thinking that Aiden's problematic. I will always have a soft spot for him because, first of all, I love a guy who can work with his hands. You can build something, you can fix something, you can change a light bulb. My bar is very low. I am into you for sure. I see the value. But what I think is tricky is that he wants to have a long distance relationship for 5 years. So he even suggested no contact while he figures out his home life. And then his kids will all be launched and he can go live with Carrie in New York City. And she's willing to wait. And as somebody who did long distance several times in my life, the waiting is a problem. You're kind of stunting your own growth. You're saying no to things for a relationship that's not even real. Nowadays, those were back in my early days over 2 decades ago. Now there's so many more ways to stay in touch virtually, whether it's Zoom, whether it's FaceTime. I still think there's no substitution for reality. Now, these guys take the kids out of the room. We've already heard the spoiler alerts. They are rekindling to have some phone sex. I myself don't think I've ever had phone sex. Is that TMI? I just can't think it would be that satisfying. Maybe it would. Maybe I should try it. But I did think it was really comical how they address it. I liked kind of that vibe and seeing how that works out. Then, Miranda has her own sexual issues and the fact that she's feeling lonely. She's gotten out of her relationship with Che. She's a lesbian now that she's broken up with Steve. And so she's going to lesbian bars for the first time. She's kind of exploring her sexuality and she winds up having sex with Rosie O'Donnell, who later reveals that she's a nun and has just been deflowered by Miranda. That was very interesting. I like that even though these storylines, well, the Miranda one specifically, are a little kooky and a little like, what the what? Are you kidding me? We could have made a lot of different choices and gone in a lot of directions, and that's where we're going. I love it. I want to just play and have fun and have it be crazy. Nobody's saying this has to be a real life depiction of New York City women I've already debunked that. I hope you've heard that. But yeah, fun. Like, let's just go there. Um, I like watching the maternal stuff around Charlotte's character. For me, it's kind of boring. Her kids dating is kind of boring. Turns out her daughter is dating a ballet dancer who's also bisexual. I mean, I do think that introducing these topics is interesting, but I think the more interesting vantage point is from within the kids' relationship and not from the exterior as a parent. I'm just not like that into watching it from that way because Charlotte is like a perfect parent and so supportive. And yes, she's shocked. And yes, she's concerned. But it's just so voyeuristic versus like really getting to anything opinion changing and complex and interesting. And then her other child happens to be what non-binary. Oh my gosh, I just lost the word. So her other child happens to be non-binary, has been non-binary for a couple seasons now. And that's interesting too. Again, I think it's just like an older woman's view of what's going on there versus it really being game changing and getting more to the heart of that particular person's experience. So I think it can be done in a more interesting way. Sometimes it feels like they're just kind of bringing up hot button issues that are in the zeitgeist right now versus truly exploring those issues in a complex way. They're like, let's just be relevant by bringing the subject matter in without having a take on the subject matter. The last thing I want to say, this is controversial. Guys, you're going to be upset by this. I'm upset by this. I can't believe I'm saying it because let me say right now, there is no judgment. I have been dabbling with Botox since I was 28. There is no judgment. Some of the actresses, some of the performers on this show have had a lot of work done. A lot of nips and tucks, a lot of fillers, a lot of Botox, some permanent surgical changes. Now, not all of them are admitting to it, or certainly to the extent of it when they're on these press junkets, which I just think, I mean, come on, you're not deceiving anybody. You are not just using really expensive cold creams. But their faces are so familiar to me from all those years that now seeing changed faces and expressions that have changed, when you get a facelift, you don't smile the same. Now that's okay. I definitely plan on considering a facelift when it's needed. Again, no judgment. But I haven't been on TV for 30 years. People aren't like totally attached to and know every nuance of my smile. So sometimes I feel like the lines are reading extra corny or that the writing feels less good. So I was trying to analyze, is it actually the writing that's changed or is it the delivery of the writing because these people's faces are not making the same faces that I know. These people look very different than they did in the other seasons and the other episodes, and it's not a natural progression. So, is it feeling fake? Because I know that that's not the natural reaction she usually has. Because I know her so well that I want to see that smile and I want to see that brow furrow and I want to see that whatever. And it's no longer able to happen. Ugh, I know, guys. I didn't want to critique the show based on that, but I was trying to get to the heart of why I'm not feeling as connected to the script. And I was like, you know what? The writing is still fun. The writing's still playful. I like that they're taking these risks. Where's my friends? All right, guys, I'd love to hear your take. I'd love to hear what you're watching and to watch it myself because I'm always looking for stuff. I tell you what, I have a watch list on my phone and I am adding every day. So I want to hear from you. Go to affordableinteriordesign.com/podcast. Now, of course, you'll see the form where you can send me a design dilemma, but you could also send me something that you're loving in pop culture, whether it's a book, a TV show, a podcast, a film. I will watch it. I will read it. I will devour it and give you my hot take on an upcoming episode. Keep me posted. Let me know and go enjoy your summer. I'll be back with you next week. Bye. A big thank you to our amazing producer, Catherine Heller, to Aton and the MVCR House Band, and to Affordable Interior Design, the sponsor of this podcast and the premier place to get an amazing look on a budget. Check out affordableinteriordesign.com. If you guys love the show, the very best way to support us is by spreading the word. Tell your friends or write us an awesome review on iTunes. So until next week, guys, thanks so much for joining us, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.